Thank you very much, everyone. Good morning, Budapest. How's everyone doing? Doing? Woo! That's so. Before we get started, I will give you a little bit background. I guess I will not do so good as Paul did. But my name is Mauricio Palma. I was born and raised in the beautiful country of Costa Rica, and I've been living for the past 13 years in Hamburg, Germany. Not because of the lovely weather. It, it is an amazing city, don't get me wrong. I work as a product engineer at SinnerSchrader, and you will see me also wearing multiple hats as the co-founder of Woodlike Ocean, where we craft swimwear out of ocean recovery fishing nets. I have to warn you though, this presentation is going to be filled with personal anecdotes, so be ready. And the first story is about how I gave my very first conference talk. It was at the JSConf Budapest 2 years ago. And I just have found out that David yesterday said on the JSConf he did his first talk too here 4 years ago. So today it is a very special, humbling moment for me, and I'm so happy to share it with you. If you have ever held a talk before, the first time, it is a very exciting, nerve-wracking experience. And as you can imagine, I was super, super nervous. I thought I was gonna die, especially because all these amazing people, then some of the speakers you have followed during your career. And I can't forget how Dennis Mishinov came to me and gave me some really comforting words. And I think I had just this terrifying look in my face, probably. But I did my best, and I think the presentation came all right. But my point here is this is a very special conference. And I am very, very excited to be here and share this presentation with you. If you have your own ideas, if you want your voice to be heard, this is the best platform to do it. So submit your ideas and you will never regret it. And for that reason, I want to thank the organizers for having me. I want to thank you for being part of this amazing community. And I hope that we can use the next 2 days to get inspired, to meet each other, to learn new things. And for that, I hope, let's give it up for that. The web can be an amazing place, a place where we can collaborate, where we can learn, where we can be creative. And it has an inherent open nature to it. Information is accessible to everyone. And for me, it was especially important because I'm a self-taught front-end developer. Now, by raise of hands, how many of you are self-taught developers? That's a lot of us. And now imagine this information would be only accessible to a certain amount of people, that you were not invited to be part of it. And this is actually what we're doing every single day when we're not thinking about accessibility and the applications we're building today. We want to invite and empower people through emerging web technologies. And I love being a front-end developer. I love my craft and working with the latest technologies, learning about new paradigms, and bringing projects to life. And I think we share the same passion. But what I have learned in later years is that my work should serve a higher purpose than just my own gratification. And I know web accessibility is not an easy endeavor, especially if you're working on large-scale projects with a lot of decision makers can become a real challenge. You get to hear stuff like accessibility is not important for us. It's not relevant for our target market. And these kind of comments are frustrating. And yet, it is still our responsibility to remove these barriers, to teach people, and try to promote and implement accessibility. We as developers, have a collective responsibility for the applications we're building today, even if we're aware of it or not. Think about it for a second. Most of us have seen hundreds, thousands of websites, have gone through a ton of user flows, and we have this toolbox full with buzzwords. And my point here is it doesn't matter how badly designed a user interface is, we still make our way out. But this is not how the rest of the world is interacting with the applications we build. Not at all. We are working in a bubble, trapped in our own bias. And like I mentioned, a lot of personal anecdotes, but don't worry, we have some technical stuff too. There were two events in my life that made me realize about the importance of accessibility. So I had to learn the hard way. And the first one was a painful one, a family health issue. My uncle-in-law, he was found on the floor, dehydrated and unconscious, and he was probably on the floor for a couple of days. So today we're very happy that he's back home, but you have to consider that he's an elderly person living by himself. So before the accident, he completely relied on the web to get pretty much everything done. He will buy his groceries online, pastries would be ordered for family coffee dates, he will take care of his bills and finances. And unfortunately, after his hospital release, he was diagnosed with poor vision and memory loss. And after he released, he called me and he said, Mauricio, I think my computer is broken. You know that when computers are broken, family are calling, it's normal stuff. And I'm trying to order some groceries and I think my computer is broken. So I went over there to see what was the problem. And so his computer was working just fine. And I asked him, can you please show me the problem? And this is the moment that I realized, and I will never forget. He couldn't recognize an add to cart button. He couldn't recognize or differentiate between copy text or input fields. He couldn't navigate through the site at all. And I was very sad because I realized that I, as a web developer, was not being responsible enough with the applications I was building until that moment. But we can actually make better use of the current accessibility tools to help people like my uncle-in-law get things done online. We can even go further and think about all these web APIs that we can use to our advantage to actually make the web a more open place. But what I have observed among us developers sometimes is that accessibility is perceived as just a checklist, a list of things given by the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines for us to implement. And it reminds me a lot to the same attitude we have for front-end development for all their browsers. You know, when you have been working on a project and the time has come for you to check it in an older Internet Explorer, think about it for a second. And my conclusion to that is that we as humans, we tend to avoid things that we don't understand. And that's our nature. And I think that's why accessibility is being perceived that way. But what if we start considering accessibility as a core concern of our application? Now let me give you an example. In Europe alone, there are 34.4 million people, let me correct that, adults with disabling hearing impairments. A disabling hearing impairment, it is one that is greater than 35 decibels. And every single day, we denied deaf and hard of hearing people access to our personal and professional lives. And during my research, I found this app called Ava that I would like to show you. And I think the team challenged this notion with their work. And let me show you what they're doing.
I am deaf.
I am hard of hearing and I'm pretty good at reading lips. When there is too many people though, this can get really tough. Sometimes the percent understand.
People talk so fast. It can be pretty overwhelming. When there's too much going on, Ava is awesome to see what people say. With one tap, I invite people, and they join me with their phones.
I need Ava to attend meetings at work.
Follow what the teacher says in class.
I won't understand people when they forgot to look at me. Ava will transcribe just about anything for me.
Well, almost everything.
And that for me was very inspiring. I'm not related to them, I don't even know the team, but I think that's a really good example of when you recognize exclusion and you become empathetic towards people with deaf and hearing impairments, then they were able to come up with a meaningful solution. Maybe it's not the best one, but it is a good start. And that's why we're here talking about it today. Because we can do these kind of things on the web natively. And I mentioned 2 events. This is the last one, I promise. And the second one, I had a sport injury. So I dislocated my arm. I couldn't move my arm for a couple of weeks. And that was really frustrating in a way because I couldn't interact with my environment. So this becomes a disability. Yet I was feeling super fit and I wanted to work, and this is how I discovered the Mac Dictation keyboard tool. Now, how many of you are familiar with the Dictation tool? A few of them. Do you like it? Yes? Mixed emotions? Well, I love it. I recognize that there is so much potential in the web speech API. It allows to control web applications through voice, and we can open through that, for example, our applications to a lot of other people. We can be inclusive towards people with vision impairments. We can be inclusive towards people with literacy problems, or maybe with a disability, with a permanent disability. If you have heard of it before, it has been around since 2014, and it has been baked natively into the web. And we will be covering how to include voice in a demo, in a small application I wrote for this example, and considering accessibility and inclusion as the core concerns of the application. And what this little toy application does is it pretty much is a JavaScript application and gets all of my Spotify playlists so I can navigate through them, play tracks, or manage my devices through the Connect web API from Spotify, which is pretty neat. And to include it, the speech recognition service works pretty much. I have a very funky looking microphone that you will see soon. It receives sound through your device's microphone, and it checks it against the list of provided grammars. And that's basically what we need to get that running. Now, a word of caution is that the speech recognition involves a server-based recognition engine, meaning that audio will be sent to a web service for processing. So this is important to have in mind because it would only work if we're online. And for that reason, I have a hotspot open because maybe our Wi-Fi might not be that good. So this is the initial configuration. Very straightforward. We just make an instance of the speech recognition controller. We configure the max alternatives. And the interesting thing about it, per default is actually 1, but the interesting thing about it, it let us define how many words, or just one word, or the list, an array of words for the service to give us back for us to work with it. So it gives us a lot of flexibility with the kind of stuff we can do. We have a property interim results, which will give us the results that are not final yet. Now, like I mentioned, lang property is really important. So if you don't define a lang property, it will use the HTML tag attribute as default, or as a last default would be the user agent language settings. And as I mentioned, grammar is going to be one of the most important aspects of this implementation. And the speech grammar list represents an object of grammars and utterances and patterns for the service to understand. So looking back to that instantiation function, you will see that we will pass those utterances, which means spoken words, necessary for the recognition. I am using RxJS observables. We will not cover them in detail, but it helps me a lot with a lot of data streams that we're handling. And the difference is that instead of receiving them all at once, we can receive them over time. So it is very useful for this purpose. And we will subscribe to it and pass to the add from string method the grammars and a confidence score. Right now it's just statically 1, but as you can imagine, we can tell by every search how important is this search for us. And at the end, we'll pass it to the speech recognition itself. Excuse me. It gets very hot up here. So I mentioned grammars are super important. And for that, we need to take a look at NLP. And NLP, or natural language processing, is the field that focuses in the interaction between human language and computers. So what it basically does is computers try to understand, process, and derive meaning from human language. And this is basically what the web speech recognition is all about. It is an abstraction that takes all that complexity away for us in order to include speech recognition into our application. There is, though, an underlying problem. And human language is ambiguous. A word can have many meanings. And this is what makes natural language processing so hard to get right. Now, I'm telling you from experience, the German Alexa and me, we have the worst relationship ever. Like, I talk to her, she don't understand pretty much anything, even though I think I can talk German. English is better, but I realize my mother tongue is Spanish, is the best. And if we're talking about accessibility, it's not going to be useful for us if the application don't understand our intentions. And for this demo application, I thought Alexa's intent would be a really good source of inspiration for tackling, to some extent, the problem of ambiguous language. Meaning, you saw in the app, we can go through the playlist. So there are many ways that I can express my intention. I could say, show the playlist, go to playlist. We can even go further and consider, what if the service, these are actual responses I got from the service before, it says OK list. So instead of frustrating the user, I can already consider these cases and trigger the related command to it. So this is a very basic example of how something like that looks. It's not even that clean because I'm mixing languages, like you can do it way better, but it works. So basically, all the intentions for me to navigate to the playlist, it will trigger one action. We will iterate over these intent samples, and we will register to a command factory. And what this command factory does, it administrates, it manages, it matches the commands with intents. We go over it one more time, and we have this callable intent that we will need later when we receive the result. And I have a little demo for you. And I heard it from Raul yesterday. I loved that. He said, let's hope the demo gods make this possible. And I hope that too. So basically, let me check that. I have this funny looking microphone, but it will make it better. And it's loading. Let's see what's going on here. So it's working fine. Like I said, internet is very slow. I'm connected with the hotspot, but we'll give it a try. So we would say something like show playlist. Go to playlist. So we'll go to the playlist. It's a very basic example. Then you will see, don't judge me for my playlist. So this is basically all of my Spotify playlists I have done until now, and we can check this one, Riding the Lightning. Go to Riding the Lightning. So it goes actually way faster, but like I said, the internet's pretty slow, and these are all the tracks. So I could say something like, let's try something hard like Peace Blossom Boogie. All right. Play Peace Blossom Boogie. Okay, that didn't work. Let me check what's going on. The API don't want to give the right response. So one more time. Let me try something first. Is this working? Yeah, this is working. So I'll go back. And we try it one more time. Play Peace Blossom Boogie. So the response came, and now we're playing the song. So it's pretty fun. If you like vintage rock music, I can recommend that too. And and before we get done, there's one more thing I want to show you, because this is not just for English. So you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think it is the BCP47 tag. I might even got it right this time. That you can use. So basically, any language supported by this tag can be used as a recognition engine. And I was asking in Norway, because I didn't know in Norway there's apparently like 4 dialects of Norwegian. Well, all of them work. And I would like to show you how can we do something like languages. And we would try it in Spanish. And now you have to excuse me, that's not really empathetic for me. But I will talk Spanish for a second. That's just for the example. And we would do something like, you see the second one, Vibra Tropical. And what I love about it is I don't even have to create a new instance. So it dynamically changes just by changing the right property. And we can try the second one. Toca me sale bien. That's wrong. Toca me sale bien. And that's wrong again. One more time. Toca me sale bien. Toca me sale bien. Hallelujah. So, thank you. Thank you. So we have 3 minutes. I have to hurry up. Right. So I had a fallback in case it didn't work, so we can skip that. And so we covered the basics, and there are some methods that are very useful. I just want to give you the whole overview of what you need to get this thing running. We have 3 methods. The start method triggers the speech recognition engine. In this case was kind of weird because I have to press the mic button. There is for sure a better way to trigger that, but that was our case, the start method. There are the stop and abort method, which basically tells the service stop recognizing and give me or give me not the process results until then. We have some events too. We have on error. That could be very useful if we have a good error strategy going on because it's really granular that let us know why the service didn't work. And pretty much this is the result we will get. It is the speech recognition result, which is within this second array, which is the speech recognition alternative, and it will give us the list of words and a confidence score. We filter those events and give them to the command factory that we saw already, and it will match those commands with the results. And before we wrap it up, I hope you have had an idea of how all the things you can do. This is just a very little example, but I hope that you understand there are so many web APIs, and we can use them in creative ways to actually give more possibilities people to interact with our applications. Now you might be wondering, browser support. It looks horrible. As you see, it is still an experimental API. I was surprised that it is coming in Edge, but there are a lot of third-party JavaScript APIs that you can use instead for a production project. There is natural language processing from Watson. There is speech to text. So there's a bunch of libraries or engines that you can use for that. So it shouldn't stop you from trying it. And this small project is on GitHub. You can try it out. You can play with it. You can break it. You're more than welcome to do that. And if you have any questions, I will be hanging out the next 2 days. And you can ask anything you would like. And that being said, thank you very much.